Welcome to the Founders Chat. Today's guest is Sergio Khoury, founder and CEO of FiniteLess AI and Ordering.co. Welcome, Sergio. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Alan.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. Maybe you can tell
Hmm?
us what is FiniteLess AI and how it is related to Ordering.co.
Yes, of course. So FiniteLess AI, it's AI agents that actually get things done instead of just chatting. The whole purpose of FiniteLess AI is that they can finish an activity from start to finish. And we integrate also with systems so that it actually replaces human work. And we are going use case by use case to replace boring work for humans so that they can focus on more creative things and things that they enjoy more or we enjoy more.
Cool. And is there one use case that is the one that you are solving for most customers?
Yes, the first one is replacing the phone, replacing phone calls for restaurants. So our AI agents will take orders via different channels. They take orders via phone calls, also via WhatsApp, and other channels are coming also very soon.
Okay, so basically, if I got it right, Ordering.co was software for restaurants to get
Yes,
orders. With FiniteLess AI, you're starting with these use cases.
yes, exactly. It's the evolution of Ordering.co. So if we didn't do this, someone else was going to do it. So our main purpose here is to we are sort of killing the online ordering with the new technology, which is also online ordering, but in an agentic way. And we believe that the commerce is conversational. Not only we do, but also a lot of different studies and research papers show that.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about using, for example, 11 Lab, this kind of agents that can reply and have natural conversations. But I think I guess these are the technologies behind that you're using, right?
Yes, they are one part, but also we're building things in house because it's very hard to get everything that you want in sort of like one single framework. So we need to glue different services and products together also to get the best benefits of each one. So for example, we are using, and maybe this is part of the later conversation, but we are not only using OpenAI for the conversations, we also have other LLMs that respond faster because there are certain messages that don't need as much intelligence. And then that way we can respond faster for certain messages.
We're going to jump into the deep technical conversation because I'm super curious on how you're solving this. Because LLMs sometimes, as you said, are slow. And
Yes,
when you write, you can wait a few seconds. But to have a conversation, it feels awkward. So yeah, we're going
exactly.
to go to jump into that. Before that, um, I wanted to ask you, how did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Because I've seen you have been in, like, you founded Ordering.co like 10 years ago, right?
Yes, correct. So I have always been an entrepreneur. I had the fortune to start very early and I've tried all different things. Of course, my first business was not my best business. I first had like a marketplace similar to Uber Eats, but I was too early. And also it was back in 2007. So not even the iPhone existed yet. And the way we did back then was actually, I got the phone call to a BlackBerry. I'm sorry, I got the order as email into a BlackBerry. Then I called their actual restaurant and dictated the order to them. So it was kind of weird. The process, it was not so nice. And I was about 20 years old back then. So it has been a while.
Wow. Yes. I think we're about the same age. And it's crazy to think that in 2007, the iPhone wasn't there because
Yes,
it's like everything is moving so fast and accelerating
it's,
now with AI.
it's like after mobile phones, everything feels like so fast, as you said. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. And is there something from your early story that most people don't know?
I think that part, like having to get the emails into a BlackBerry that wasn't even that nice, and then they need to call the restaurants, and it was always on dinner time or lunch time, and I was like eating, and then I needed to pause so that I could call the
Wow.
restaurants to tell them like, hey, you got an order. It was crazy back then.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And how were you monetizing this? Because I guess when back then, customer was paying directly when they were receiving the order at home, right?
Yes, it started free. I was charging then a percentage for the restaurants. And then after that, I converted the whole business into a franchise. And then I sold the franchises for this business. And actually, we had about 50 franchises in Mexico. So we were growing fast. But as we saw after that, Uber Eats and DoorDash and Rappi and other companies needed actually many, many millions to scale. It was not only like a few
Yeah.
$1,000 what you needed. Yes, the money was like the main constraint for us
Yeah.
back then.
I learned the hard way also that marketplaces are really expensive to grow and
Yes.
complex to manage as well, but expensive. You need to acquire two different kind of customers, right?
Yes. The best way to run marketplaces is to find a really small niche so that you can focus on that and then you can start growing there and then you can start expanding. Otherwise, it's very, very hard to compete with Uber Eats. And actually, with ordering.co, we still sell marketplace solutions. And there are some companies that are doing really good in some countries.
Yeah. Um, so you have been always kind of in the same industry, but how did you choose that industry or how was the first idea created?
That's a very good question. I was actually in a cruise and in Cayman Islands, I saw a flyer of like internet online ordering. I was maybe 17 or 18 back then, but the idea was still in my head when I started. That company name was ordenafacil.com. And then after that, I had a tequila company, which was sort of like multi-level marketing tequila company. You can imagine it as Herbalife, but for tequila. And the mission back then was I was a student. I enjoyed drinking good quality tequila, but it was hard to get. So then we built that brand and it was really nice. And then a lot of people could enjoy great quality at low price. It actually grew very quickly. But then the main mistake was that we tried to expand too fast. We tried to come to the US when we were still extending the market in Mexico, like changing that focus to try to start in another country where regulations were or are like very different. It was like the main mistake back then. And then the way I got back into online ordering software and delivery solutions, one of my best friends, he told me like, hey, nobody has invented yet like a marketplace solution done in a right way. Why don't we try again? So we did, but instead of trying to create the marketplace, we actually created the software to do that.
That's very smart because then you can expand to a marketplace. So basically,
Yeah.
now with the software, you target only the like one side of the marketplace, right?
Yes, exactly. And then they can go and create the business by themselves. Then it eventually evolved to software that can be used by franchises. So a lot of restaurant franchises use our platform because in the end, the technology that they need, it's online ordering in multiple channels. We created that. We have online ordering website, application for the customers, kiosks, call center software. And then also we have the whole delivery platform, which allows real-time tracking with drivers and everything is interconnected. And we continue to expand into different modules like marketing, loyalty, business intelligence, integrations, open APIs. So it grew very quickly.
That's great. So let's say I have a restaurant and I have an integrated technology.
Yes.
Ordering.co can cover all the different parts of the business, right? Like software speaking.
Yes, correct, correct. And also one of our main advantages there is that we are not constrained to just using ordering. We actually connect to the other services they want to continue using. So instead of seeing like Uber Eats or DoorDash as competition, they are actually kind of platforms that help the restaurant, which in the end, that's our mission, to help restaurants. So we connect to all these other services or platforms and point of sale systems so that they can use whatever modules they want from ordering, but they can continue to use the technologies that they want to continue to use.
Okay, that's pretty nice. I didn't know. Let me see if I got it right.
Mhm.
DoorDash, Uber Eats, Deliveroo, and all these ones, all the marketplaces,
Yes.
do they offer APIs? So, for example, I have a restaurant. I'm also
Mhm.
using ordering.co and I upload all my catalog
Yep.
with prices. So then can you bridge like this data to the different platforms so I don't need to manage multiple?
Yes, exactly. And the way we do
Wow.
it, it's we get the menu from the point of sale system. Then ordering becomes the source of truth to manage the menus. And then we can push those menus into DoorDash, uh, uh, Uber Eats, Rappi, and so many others.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that was possible. Really, that's super good value for restaurants.
Yes. And then when an order is placed in whatever channel, it comes back to ordering and then goes back to the point of sale system. So they don't even need to input manually in the point of sale system the order anymore.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. All right. So you have been, well, I was going to ask you about pivots, but I see you have been doing a lot.
Yes.
And now you are going to agentic AI, which I think it's the way to go. That's great. And what about during all this journey? Have you had tough moments, like near burnout moments that you can share?
Yes, a lot. And I wouldn't say near burnout. I would say like completely burnout. But yes, many. The latest one was actually last year where we needed to understand the whole vision because AI came to change everything. And it was like, hey, we need to pivot. We need to see what's the future because there's no future in the online ordering software. There's future in the solutions that we are going to provide, or otherwise, it because restaurants and other businesses are not looking for software anymore. They don't want to have something to manage by themselves. They just want like out of the box solutions where they can plug and play into their systems and everything works. And that's kind of what we were thinking. Like, okay, now the technology with AI, it's really good. We have been using it for a while now, also inside the company to be more efficient, to be better, to be faster. And then we thought like, okay, what's the next step of e-commerce? What's the next step of local commerce and the way restaurants and other people are going to do business? And it's actually creating agents that can get their customers into a path of least resistance. Like opening WhatsApp, it's very fast. You can simply send a voice message or a text message like, I want the same thing as my last order to the same address, and then everything is done in less than 30 seconds. That's actually faster than going to a website or opening an app, selecting a product. Like that's harder.
Yeah. The more complex the technology, the less complexity for the end user. And now with AI, I think this is being pushed to the extremes.
Yes. And I think not only for restaurants, but every software company needs to evolve, or there will be a similar solution everywhere, like for appointments, for every use case you can imagine.
and it's easier and easier to replicate things now because building is faster.
Yes.
All right. So maybe let's switch to your personal side.
Okay.
How does a regular day looks like to you?
I like waking up early. So I start working maybe at 5:30 C, sometimes 7 a.m. That's not that early like other people say, but I also wake up without an alarm. So I figure that the best way is to simply understand my body. And then if I want to wake up at 5, then that's it. At 7, also that's okay. And then I focus on the most important thing I need to do that day. And then it's at about 11 a.m. where I start having meetings either with clients or prospects or my team so that we can move forward the projects that need my input somehow.
So basically, you save these early hours in the morning for
Mhm.
hard work, like intense focus work
Yes.
before the meetings. And
Yes,
then,
correct.
are you working remote? Are you going to the office?
Yes, we work remotely since the pandemic. Decided that was a better way. And it has been really nice. All of these years, you don't lose time in commuting. So that's good. I think the quality of our team, the quality of the life of our team has been increasing. They seem happier. So that's all it matters to me also.
Wow, that's great. Because I heard a lot of stories about remote was great at the beginning, but
Mhm.
over time, it was hard to keep up the motivation, or yeah, it's not the same to have the personal connection. But you're a remote success story. That's amazing.
Yes, thank you. I don't think it's like one or the other. For some companies may work in a way, for some others in the other. And also what I think is the power to choose. So right now, and I ask my team like every year if they want to go back to the office, and they continue to say no to that. But eventually, if they want to, we will have an office again. And that's okay. I think that's also something that you can change your mind to.
Yeah. And but do you do some offsites or events where you gather everybody together?
Yes, yes, we do. Normally every December.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's important from time to time to still have this personal
Yes,
face to face get
definitely.
around. Cool. And do you have any rituals that help with stress? Like, I don't know, for me it's running, for
Mhm.
other people it's something else.
I enjoy running also. I enjoy going to the gym and playing tennis. And I try to do it a few times a week. Like my goal is to do it maybe 4 or 5 times per week. I normally do it like 3 or 4, so I'm getting there.
I still it's still good.
Yeah.
Cool. I I am understanding that you're a solo founder. Have you ever had co-founders?
Yes. Actually, I have a co-founder. His name is Alonso. He's still a very, very good friend. I mean, it all started as a friendship and then it evolved into we trying to create businesses. Also, Oring was not the first business we tried, but eventually we hit it
Oh, wow.
with a
So
good
you've
business.
been with your co-founder since the beginning. Like in 2007, when you were telling the BlackBerry story,
No,
you
but
already was.
that was with other friends. But then when we pivot, made the pivot to software, it was with Alonso in 2012, and it started as a side business. It wasn't generating much back then, maybe $200 per month, then $500. Then eventually it became the biggest source of income for me and also for him. So we decided like, hey, why don't we focus all of our energy to this business and see how it works. And yeah, it worked.
Amazing. And how are you splitting responsibilities?
Right now, I'm actively working on, so I'm the only one actively working on this business. He continued to create something else.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still friends?
Yes, 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 of course.
Okay. Nice. That's a good story because with co-founders, you never know. Sometimes I had good and bad experiences. So I have
Yeah,
ex co-founders that I'm still friends and others I'm not.
that happens. Definitely. That has happened also to me in the
Yeah,
past.
it's dangerous. You never know.
Yeah.
Cool. So well basically you're using AI to implement solutions for your customers.
Mhm.
But when it comes to your personal or professional workflows, are you using AI and how are you using it?
Yes, every day I use AI. So the most common one is ChatGPT, but I also use Cloud Code for prototyping, for creating ideas. Then also a recent use case that's really nice. It's creating presentations inside Cloud Code because I figured like, okay, if it's so smart, that it can do programming, why not try to create presentations with that intelligence? And it's really, really good creating presentations. And I also use Gamma for presentations sometimes. And for each one of our team members, they have chosen their AI tools, but mostly I'm on strategy and taking the decisions of the vision for the company. So it's mostly the most common tools, the ones that I use.
Okay. Okay. I'll take a look to Gamma and Cloud Code for presentations because I still haven't found any good AI to create presentations or
Mhm.
visuals. I have tried ChatGPT and it's not good. Um, so yeah, I'll give it a try.
Yes, definitely.
All right. And about the industry, is there a trend that you think everybody else is underestimating?
Yes, I think that we still need to think about what are humans going to do with their free time because it's really saving a lot of time. Like I see it with my work, with my team's work. We are more efficient now, maybe like 2x or 3x more efficient, but that trend is going to continue to increase until eventually everyone will have more free time. So what are we going to do with that? Because it's not only about working because of the need to work. I think that's one part of it, but if you had the power to choose between working or not working, I would say most of the people will continue to choose working. I have tried this myself, like, okay, what if I didn't work? And it was like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks
Yeah.
where I said like, no, I can't live my life like this. I really enjoy working. I enjoy creating things. And even if money allows you to not work, I choose to work.
Yeah, actually, because this is a topic that I really enjoy discussing because there is clearly this trend and it's accelerating, and we are more productive as a society, right? Actually, if you go back 100 or 200 years, it was difficult to create food for the world population, right? And now
Yes.
we don't have this problem anymore, and we have more wealth, and people have better work conditions, and
Mhm.
everybody has more things, right? Like if you go back on time, people didn't have heating in winter or air conditioning in summer, right? So now we normalized all that. And I agree with you that we are becoming more and more productive. And I agree that maybe people will be able even to live without working. Imagine that, well, the AI is going to robots already, but imagine when robots can do the same jobs as people, what's going to happen. But I think you're optimistic there. I think you're an exception. I think entrepreneurs in general, we're an exception. We're kind of workaholics. We can't be quiet, but I think that many people can stay without working. And it's happening in some countries are giving a lot of government aids and stuff, and they are having a lot of problems. because they have big part of the population not working. But sometimes what I think about is how are we going to keep the balance? Because it's okay, even if you love working, you have this reward and you're able to afford things. But in a world where everybody can have anything they want, what is going to be the incentive? You know, is work alone necessary? Because as you mentioned, like I've had burnout situation as well. And actually, I was writing an article. 80% of founders report having had burnout situations. 87%. I think
Yes,
it's 100, and the other 13
yes,
they don't want to admit it, right? Eh,
definitely.
So in these situations, keep us going. We have many different things, but financial pressure is one of them. Imagine that you can just quit and you have everything. It's going to be really complex. I don't think there is an answer for this.
It goes back to purpose. Like sometimes it's work, but sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's creating stuff. Sometimes it's entertainment. But I don't think like humans are meant to not do anything. So that's where my, the thing that I mentioned is what are we going to do with all this free time? They, like everyone needs to find what they enjoy to do
Yeah,
so that it's not boring, because otherwise it's going to be a boring life. And I would say most of the people don't want that.
no. I think the future industries are okay, healthcare and all this stuff because people will want to live longer. Once you have everything, you want to enjoy for as long as you can. But then I think there are two other industries that
Mhm.
today they are not huge, but they are already big. And one is the hobbies in general. Like
Yes.
I'm for example, I'm a lot into sports,
Mhm.
and wow, the industry behind. I'm preparing an Ironman, so all
Nice.
the cycling industry is impressive. Like it wasn't like this 20 years ago. Now there are a
Mhm.
lot of people having time-consuming hobbies, and I think that professionals, like people that were studying engineering and stuff, I think it's going to move more to the into research because I don't know. I think AI won't be able to do research to discover new things.
Mhm.
Maybe it will be able to, but it's definitely doing engineering work already, right? It's
Yes, definitely.
replacing a lot of engineering work.
And we are not yet there where humans will be replaced. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. And the main idea behind this is that humans have more context, at least for now, than AI. So if you want to transfer this context, you would need to go back and like try to narrate how your life has been going since the start, because sometimes you connect things from your childhood where you said like, oh, I figured I could do this, and then you applied that to business. So it's not that easy for AI, at least not now, to completely replace the human brain and experiences that we have had.
Yeah. I think it's missing this creativity, and it's insane because you see new research every day and research is accelerating as well. And now Google published the paper, and basically now AI is going to be able to learn more like the human brain learns
Yes.
because AI had a limited context and it was like erasing everything
Mhm.
when this context was full. And now it's going to be able to learn at different speeds. And so if it considers that something has to stay, that
Mhm.
thing is going to stay. So it's really interesting, but still, like I think it's far from matching the human brain. And we are seeing as well that humans now are choosing more real or human, for example, content in social media.
Mhm.
I think as humans, we value what is difficult to achieve in general. For example, we admire a successful business person because it's difficult to get there, right?
Yeah.
We admire good bodies because good bodies take a lot of effort to get.
Mhm.
And If you remember, in the past, you were reading a super nice article on LinkedIn or a newspaper, adding a lot of value, and we were valuing this article. But now, because it can be written with AI, if it has M dashes, if you can see that it was AI created,
Yes.
we don't even read it. We prefer real, because
Mhm.
this high value article is not difficult to create anymore. So I
I
think
agree.
we are shifting. I agree with you that what we do, what humans do, will still be valuable to us and not what the machine can do, because there is no effort required to use AI and do something fast.
I agree. Definitely. And human connections that will not be replaced. I don't see a world where most of the humans will say that they prefer to spend time with AI than with other humans.
Exactly.
There will be exceptions, but I don't think it's going to be most of us.
Yeah, there are always exceptions, but yeah, I agree. Cool. So if you have to define what is success for you, how would you define?
Freedom to choose. I would say freedom to choose whatever you want with your time, the people you want to spend your time with, and the things you want to do. If it's traveling, if it's doing sports, if it's painting, like whatever you want to do, having the freedom to choose and do that.
Right? Do you think you're there already? Because I can see you're running your business. This is one of the
Yes,
hardest things to do.
I would say I'm still learning. One of the hardest things as an entrepreneur for me has been mostly on the latest years has been learning to slow down because I'm always living in a high speed. And it's like I need to force myself to slow down so that I can go take a walk. I can go to the gym more. And I'm, it's very hard for me to do that. But hopefully I will accomplish that. To answer also the other part of your question, yes, I'm choosing to work because I like to, but I also want to work less so that I
Yeah.
can try to win life more. And this has been one of my biggest learnings this year because I will always thought that if I was not learning or working, then I was not having like a good life because it was what everyone is always telling, like, you need to be productive, you need to do this, you need to do that. And eventually, one realization that I got this year was okay, I can earn money or win work, but I can also win life. And how do I win life? By having more time with my wife, with my kid, and reminding myself, like, okay, this is also winning, not only the work part.
Yeah. I had a similar realization this year, because I had to shut down a company that I had been working so hard. And then I had this kind of existential question: what have I
Yes.
been doing with my life? What do I have in my life? Because for me, when I was shutting down my company, it was like I was, I don't know, shooting myself in the balls. It's
Yes.
like, okay, I don't have anything else left. And then thinking about it, I realized that for me now, and if you asked me 1 year ago, it was a different answer. But for
Uh-huh.
me now, I think there are three pillars.
Uh-huh.
One is health, being
Yep.
able to work out, be in shape, be healthy. The second is family, like the family and friends, like the people you are surrounded with. And the third is doing what you like professionally. Being wealthy, because it's necessary to have all the three.
Yes.
But sometimes we focus too much on the professional part.
Uh-huh.
And my realization this year is, if if you exaggerate and you go all in, you might lose the other things, right? You might not have time to work out, stay healthy. You might lose friends or family if you don't take care of them.
Yes, I agree. Definitely. And I like the way Alex Hormozzi explains this, that there are seasons in life. There are seasons of more work and there are seasons of more family or more free time. Or maybe when you are training for Ironman, you need to focus more time also per week to do that. And that's okay because there are different seasons and you need to enjoy all of them somehow.
Yeah, yeah. This is something that it's hard to learn, but I think over time, sometimes when we are young, we tend to think that we can have control over everything, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's like you can't. For example, yeah, I was shutting down the company, and now I was trying to find what is my next step. And actually, I think I told you this, but I'm going back to Google
Yes, nice.
in 2 months. So, okay, I have a lot of time. What do I do with my life? Okay, so I'm training for an Ironman because otherwise I need to be doing something, And yeah, I'm lucky I started this podcast a few months ago. So now I'm working a lot on this because I can't be just laying the sofa.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with the seasonal thing because sometimes life gives you opportunities and
Mhm.
we have to take them. Cool. So I have a few more questions for you.
Of course.
If you can give an advice to your 22 years old self, what is the advice that you could give?
Don't do that many things. Choose and focus. Trust your team and hire smarter, I would say.
So
Yes.
have you had uh, bad experiences like you hired people and then they let you down, you had to fire?
Yes, definitely. Also because I was for many years against firing and then I just needed that people to stay, but not because they were really doing work, but because I couldn't be that person that fires people. But eventually, as a CEO, you need to learn and you need to evolve also all the time. And yes, that's part of business, part of life.
Yeah. This is really tough part of the job. And I when I was a founder, sometimes I had to let go people, and it wasn't super difficult for me because the financial situation wasn't super good, so it was kind of natural, if somebody's not performing. But then I was in a similar situation in a big company as a manager, right?
Mhm.
So it's like my job is to I need to let go somebody that is bad at their work, but I
Yes,
didn't have any financial implication. The company was doing great and everything, but you still have to do it because otherwise you intoxicate the culture of your
exactly.
team. So
Exactly.
it's really tough.
That's, I think, the core learning that if you don't let go those people, they are going to drag down the other ones that are performing well.
Yeah, I think this has to be the main reason. Then there are like financial stuff, but keeping the hardworking culture and the nice
Yes.
culture, right? And we're working together to make this happen, to win over
Yes.
the competitors. So this has to be the main reasons. Cool. So what message would you send to your customers today?
Let me think. That's a very good question.
Customers and
So,
future customers.
yes, I would say that we are building this company for them so that they must feel free to always say what they want because in the end it's our job to give the best products to them and their customers. So always, and not only for our customers, but I guess this should be for every industry and every company. Like customers do have a voice, even if you have a vision as a company, but customers do have a voice to shape the product, at least in some ways, so that you can merge like your ideas, your vision, your mission with what your customers are telling you so that you can have the best of both worlds.
Nice. And do you have any mechanisms to collect feedback or requests from your customers today?
Yes, the way we are doing is we use these AI tools to record meetings and get feedback during the calls. And then we process all this feedback so that we can learn what are the best features to build, for whom are those features, And then, of course, we need to prioritize. We cannot do everything, but at least we have like a source of truth so that we can choose.
Nice, nice. So customers keep more feedback. Nice. Okay, last question now.
Mhm.
What do you think is your superpower as a founder?
I think it has been evolving. It hasn't been always like this, but right now it's clarity and focus so that we can choose the few things that will actually make the company grow. And instead of trying to accomplish, I don't know, 100 projects each quarter, we choose just a few and we have one priority per person at any given time. So I don't have two priorities right now. I need to have one priority. For example, right now, my priority is to start with pilots and customers with FiniteLess. Then after that, my priority will be raising money. And then it's not that I'm moving around all the time between two or three or four or five priorities. It's like I need one. And then I need also to set the milestones on what do I need to accomplish until that point so that I can also replace myself. So, for example, right now I'm in sales for FiniteLess, but my goal right now is to pilot the first few customers to prove that the products are working perfectly and they are providing value. And then I need to replace myself so that someone else that's better than me on sales can continue to grow the company on that side so that I can focus on something else, like the main constraint of the business at any given time.
Yep, this is a very good advice to basically choose one priority, hyper focus, make
Yeah.
it happen before moving to the next one. This is a common mistake. I made this mistake so many different times because, especially with fundraising, because fundraising is complex and you need to build the pipeline. You probably know about this. It takes time. And sometimes what I did is I started reaching out to people before I had a product solution fit. I didn't know that the customer really wanted the product. So
Yes.
if I got calls with investors, I didn't have the metrics, so it was useless. So yeah, I agree. I agree with you. That's
Yes.
great.
And also knowing how you need to split that priority. Because of course it's if it's like a priority like, okay, I want to raise money, you have a lot of different steps to get there. So you need to know that maybe raising money is the goal for this quarter, but how do you split that into months and then into weeks and then into days so that whatever week you can have the steps to finish the goal for that week and knowing that even if you want to accelerate the process is just a process and you need to go through all the steps so that you can finally accomplish the goal.
Yeah, fully agree. All right, Sergio. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Same
I really
here.
enjoyed the
Thank you,
conversation,
Alan. Me
and I
too.
am sure a lot of entrepreneurs will learn a lot from your journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It has been great.
Bye.
Bye.